There you go. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah.
That's all right. It's lovely to be invited. Now, what I would say to everybody is I hope that this session will be really interactive. I think the more people that contribute thoughts and ideas, the more that we can all take away different ideas from this. And the other thing is, I haven't had an awful lot of time to prepare this, so the more we talk, the more the deeper the insight that we'll get. I have prepared some slides, but the discussion is far more important. So let's just, I'll put them up now and then we can start to talk about it. So, what is community and connection and why do we need it? So probably would be a good place to start with, why am I talking to you today? So you can probably tell I have cerebral palsy. I'm 54. Gosh, yes, I am. That's worrying. And I have had I live independently. I run my own business. I've got a background in HR, so I've worked in recruitment and sorting out people's work issues for a long time. And I now do coaching, and particularly career coaching. But everything I do is from a positive psychology basis, which I'll explain a bit more about that as we go through. But I thought what might be quite nice to start with is to hear about what's made you smile in the last few days. And I know sometimes we need time to think about that. So I thought I would share with you something that's made me smile. And it was my Alexa shopping list. Now, if I just put it up for you, hopefully you'll be able to read it. But if for those that can't maybe see it clearly, this is my genuine Alexa shopping list, and it included a saltwater crocodile, a hairy toe remover, and a young man with a limp, and a duck pie. Now, obviously, Alexa didn't understand what I was asking her for. But if anybody could tell me what I was asking her to put on my shopping list, it would be really useful, because I have no idea. So, and I'm sure that I'm probably not the only one that's had random things come back when they've asked Alexa to do things. So I just wondered, is anybody else willing to share what's made them smile in the last few days? And it might be anything from seeing that beautiful sunshine today. It might be from spotting your first snowdrop. It might be from speaking to somebody or seeing someone that you haven't seen, or watching something funny on the TV. And you're lucky might have got a Valentine's card. So, is there anyone that would like to share?
I'll share.
Oh, go on then, Emma. You go first.
No, well, mine's a bit sentimental, but it was my husband's birthday on Sunday. And we managed to take 3 children and 2 dogs to the pub and for a walk, with nobody arguing, nobody falling over, and bringing everybody back in one piece. So that made me smile that we actually achieved it.
That's amazing.
Wow.
It was, and we decided to take a photograph of it in our head to remember the fact that my 3 children actually can get on and they can be nice to each other, that we could remember it. So that's what made me smile this week.
Oh, that's brilliant. And Miriam, I think you were going to share.
I was just going to say that as it's half term, I took my daughter with me to go and visit my great nephew. He's only 3 months old, and apparently, and we've got it on video, he giggled for the first time, and his mum said he's tried it, but that's definitely a giggle. And it happened when we were there, and it was just like one of those priceless little moments that as this little 3-month-old baby is slowly evolving into the world, that I just felt very, really, it just really enjoyed being able to be part of that. So that was a very special moment.
Very special. And I wonder if Miriam or Emma, you're able to read what we've got in the chat.
Yeah, I can do that. So Becky's colleague made her smile today by just turning up. We've been severely short-staffed, so it was great to see her.
That's so good.
I empathise with that, Becky. Are you doing okay? Oh, she might be on mute. And who else?
Yeah, sorry, I'm sort of okay. It's been a bit bonkers, hence the reason I'm sat here trying to drink a drink and have only just finished my tea. So,
but you were pleased to see your colleague?
Yes, very.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
Good.
And Katie said that the pub's her favourite place. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there is a reason for asking you to share things that have made you smile. And if anyone wants to do that as we go on, then do. But actually, laughter releases some really important hormones called serotonin and dopamine. And they really make us feel better. They lift our mood. And actually, smiling does the same thing. And even smiling at yourself in the mirror will actually make you feel better. And it's these little things that I'm going to be talking about tonight that really help us to boost how we're feeling and maintain a positive mindset. And watching, I don't know if anybody's got a favourite comedy. Some people love it, some people don't. What makes me laugh is Mrs. Brown's Boys. And I can just sit and watch that over and over, or watching silly videos on Facebook or Instagram of cats. It's actually really good for us to start to do that and to recognise how important laughter is. And I know some people laugh loads. I don't, and I'm actually trying as one of my goals this year to laugh more often. And apparently you can train yourself to do that. So that's really important. And I just see, Claire, you like Miranda. I love Miranda. It's so funny.
Mm-hmm. And also, did you see that? I think we should stop and celebrate that, Claire. Claire has been in her job now for 7 months. Her manager's signed off her probation. So she's there now. Yay! I think that is worth celebrating. That's brilliant. Doesn't feel like 7 months ago, though.
No, it's gone by quite quickly, which I think is a good sign. Yeah. It's been going well.
What job do you do, Claire?
I work in the admin team of a GP surgery.
Gosh, that's a busy job.
Yeah, but it's non-patient facing, so I literally just do the computer documentation basically. So I'm not dealing with stroppy patients or anything like that, unlike probably Becky is. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm very lucky in that respect. I'm not right at the sharp end in that sense.
But you're doing a really important job, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'm also really spoiled that it's only afternoons as well.
Oh,
so that works
lovely.
around my needs really nicely.
Yeah, super.
Brilliant, Claire. Really brilliant. Can I share a program that I've just started watching? I'm not meaning to change. You're talking about Miranda. I have started watching Little Sheldon with my son, my 9-year-old, which has been making me laugh out loud. And like you, Sarah, I don't think I laugh a lot. Like, not that I'm not happy, but that really made me laugh out loud because it's he's very, very literal and he makes me laugh.
I've written that down, Emma, to watch an episode.
It's quite funny.
Thank you. I think it's really good to share things that have made you laugh, because some of us might find it like, I wouldn't have looked for a children's TV program because I haven't got any children around me. So I became interested in motivation and positive psychology about 7 or 8 years ago now. And what really shocked me is until about 20 years ago, nobody had studied what we need to maintain a positive mental health. And all these psychiatrists and psychologists up until that point had always been studying what happens when things go wrong with people's mental health. And there was a chap called Martin Seligman who suddenly started thinking, well, actually, let's look at what we need to keep that positive mental mindset, and let's see if we can encourage people to do more of that, so that actually we do stay in a more positive place, which to me made perfect sense. So what they now call it positive psychology is that actually makes life worth living, and what makes life really good. And what I wanted to do tonight, just before we start talking about friendships, is tell you about these really important things that we need to maintain our really positive mental health. And if anybody wants to, has got a pen or a piece of paper, or maybe both, or if you've got your phone, you might want to just make a few notes just about, because it would be really good at the end of this session if anybody that's come up with a really one thing that you might be able to do, maybe on a daily basis, that you think would be really good for you, then it would be brilliant if you could share that at the end of the session. So they call it the PERMA model, and PERMA, you can see, has these, it's an acronym, and the first part of that is all about positive emotions. And this is a way of sort of thinking about what makes us feel really good, because we've got two parts of our brain. We've got one that does all the processing and thinks about how things work, but then we've got this other part of our brain which has been there a long time, from when there were tigers and dinosaurs and we had to protect ourselves. And that primitive part of our brain can really take over if we're feeling really down. And what we need to do is be training our brain to look for positive things. So part of this is about asking what's been good today. So that was my what's made you smile. And I know when people either coming from work or we pick the phone up and speak to someone, when the kids come home from school, we tend to say, how's your day been? Now, we can really have an influence over the answers that we get back if we ask that question in a slightly different way and say, what's been good today? And then it starts training our brain to think about and focus on those positive things. So writing a diary, writing down 3 things a day that have been good is a really good thing to do. Now, if you start doing it, if you can do it straight away, that's brilliant. But if you sit there thinking, I can't think of 3 things, that's because your brain isn't been trained to focus on what's been good. And the more, it's a bit like saying to you, look out for red cars when you go out next time. Now, if I say that, you'll automatically look for red cars and you'll find more red cards than if you hadn't been looking for them. So if we're looking for good things, we'll see them. So today I could say, actually, 3 good things. One is talking to everybody now. That's really good, and I know that hopefully you'll all go away with things that you can do. The sun was out today. The cat was asleep at the bottom of my bed when I woke up, which I really like that. So it's because I do that, and what the evidence shows that if you do that for 30 days, the positive impact of that lasts for 3 months. So it's a no-brainer, really. Now, you can do it on your phone, there's lots of apps, or you can just write it in a diary. I've got a lovely little notebook that I keep by the side of my bed. And the beauty of that is whenever I pick it up to write in it, I flick through and it reminds me about other things that I've done. And that really makes me smile as well. The other
Sarah,
thing, yeah.
Can I just add that
Please.
I do that. I mean, actually, it was one of my, I don't like to say goals this year, was to keep it up for
Brilliant.
there, to do it every day. And I found that doing it at night time, I was too tired. So I've moved it and I do it before I start work in the morning. So as I sit down, before I put the computer on, I do it then, and it actually puts me in a good frame of mind for the rest of the day, because I focus my brain on the positives. So I've just found that I've moved when I did it to make it more doable for me. So I just wondered what you thought about that.
I love that, Emma. It's about doing it at a time that works. And do you know what? I might try that, because I can really see the benefits of that, of doing it in the morning. Doesn't matter where or when we do it. It could be if we sat watching telly, but it's about getting your brain to think about those really little things. It could be that you've had a chocolate today, if that's not what you do every day. It doesn't have to be big things.
And the other lovely game that I've started playing, but this was from a coach friend of mine, that is with my children, because they roll their eyes at me because I ask them every day when they come home from school, what are 3 good things that happened today, before they tell me anything else, because usually it's about things that have happened in the playground. But we've been, as a family, we've started to look for hearts.
I like that.
When we're out and about, it's trying to find hearts. And you'll be amazed the amount, especially in February, but in other times, things that just look like hearts, clouds, leaves, we've found stones, very different things. I think that's also a good little, as a fun way of training your brain.
Yeah. The other thing, I've just looked at the picture on my slide, and the other thing is about how you could have a gratitude jar. And I know someone that has a jar in the kitchen, and like Emma's just said, when their children come in from school and when everybody gets in from work, they write things down on a bit of paper or a post-it note and fold them up and put them in a jar. And then at the end of the week or on a lazy Sunday morning, they take them out and read them all out, which is another lovely way. And the more times you read them and hear about them, you get that burst of serotonin and dopamine every time you think about it. So just before I move on, the last thing I wanted to say about this is about the news and social media. Now, I don't know about you, but there's some horrible things happening in the world, and it seems to be on an ongoing basis. Now, I want to keep abreast of the news, but I don't need to be hearing the news every hour of every day. Now, for me, I certainly don't want to be listening to the news just before I go to bed. So it's about choosing when and how you keep abreast of the news and whether you actually need to. So, and that's going to be personal choice. And I know, Claire, you just said you spend too much time. I do that, and I don't know if you've not watched it's a documentary on Netflix. I can't remember what it's called, but it's all about social media and how it is designed to keep us on those pages. And watching that for me was a real eye-opener, and I leave my phone in my kitchen and I don't take it into the living room or to bed at all, because otherwise I can be on it for hours and it's just not good for me.
I do agree with you. It's interesting. I'll have a look for that documentary. I've had several people tell me to spend less time on my phone in bed. But the thing is, I don't have any other phones in my room. So I always feel like I have to have my phone near me, almost as a kind of safety aspect, if you like.
Yeah.
So that's my excuse anyway. But I should probably put time limits or like only allow access to certain hours.
Can I share that I found a setting on my phone? It's a sleep setting, I think, but I've set it so that it doesn't alert me to anything after because I set that I wanted to be going to bed about 10 o'clock. So from 9 o'clock, the screen changes colour. It doesn't alert me to anything.
I've done that before as well, but it doesn't stop me sort of choosing to to look at stuff.
Maybe,
and the thing is, like,
maybe put it across the room from your actual bed so that you can't actually get up that easily to it.
I'm like Claire, I can set it to go to sleep, but if I'm on it, it's really hard. But it's being very aware of it and trying to change that. Becky?
There are two things. I'm a bit weird because I don't really do social media anyway. I'm a bit old. I'm not that old, but I'm a bit old. But I was always watching the news like quite late because I have quite a long commute, and I was never home for the 6 o'clock news, and it was really sort of riling me because I wanted to know what was going on in the world, because I wouldn't know, but I wouldn't. And someone suggested to me the BBC News app, which has actually been quite good because I can just scroll through what's going on. I can pick the stories I want to read, and you can set it so there's no notifications or anything. So I've been quite good at, I can look at that at my lunchtime or whatever, and then I don't have to watch the news later. And there's probably other apps if you want other things. The other thing is, the other way to look at it, Claire, is to perhaps turn it on its head. So you need your phone for safety, but that doesn't mean you have to be on it in bed. So it's on the side, and you have to, that's at the point where you feel like scrolling through your phone, you need to pick up a book or listen to something on a podcast or the radio or something, to do something else until you get out of the habit of doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, obviously, like you say, like listening to music and stuff, that would also be on my phone. So the tendency to, you know, play games or, scroll social media whilst listening to music. But it's like,
but if you
always
listen
is with me. I get the
you,
theory. I'm just never very good in practice.
but if you listen to spoken word, it's more difficult. I was having trouble sleeping and stuff just generally, so I joined Audible, but you can also join.
But
you
again,
don't have.
The only thing I'd say with reading and listening to audio books is that, obviously, with my hearing impairment as well, again, usually in the evening I'm too tired to concentrate on that sort of thing, which I guess is kind of the idea of it. So that's why I tend to choose sort of music rather than, but I have got better at choosing appropriate music, especially now I use Spotify and things like that. So I use, you know, music for sleep or music for, you know, relaxation or whatever.
It's really important to just think about, but I'll move on if that's all right. We're now on the E of PERMA, and that's about engagement. And it's about when we're doing something that the time goes out the window because we're just so engrossed in it, whether it's reading a book or doing some art. I don't know what other people do to get that engagement. Oh, let's leave aside social media because I think that's a different type of engagement, but this is actually doing something that you really enjoy doing. So the next one in PERMA is relationships, and we will come back to this. But obviously we all need to have people around us, and it really enhances our well-being, whether that's friends, families, support workers, neighbours. Having relationships, I'll say with a small R, but having those connections is really important for us. And it's actually having that sense of belonging. Now, it could be just looking at old photographs with friends and family. It could be about connecting on Zoom. It could be about writing letters. And we'll talk about that, as I say, at the end of this. But relationships are really important for us. And then it's about having meaning. Now, this could be about doing something for other people. It could be about giving our time to help somebody else, whether it's on the phone, whether it's on, and I will mention social media here because those connections, whilst we recognise what a drain social media can have on our lives, it can also be a really good way of connecting with people and being part of those communities online can be really important. This photo was one that's quite old now, but it does make me smile because during the pandemic, I one day made a chocolate cake and I just took slices of it to my next door neighbours, and I was trying to work out how I would carry it round, so I put it in the basket and took it on my tricycle. But it's about actually helping. How can we help other people and have a meaning and a purpose? And the A is about accomplishment, and it's that sense of actually I did that, I finished that, or I got that done today. And I don't know about you, but if I can end a day feeling like I've accomplished something, then I go to sleep much happier than if I don't. Now, this can be about setting yourself some daily goals. And we know that if we think about them the night before, so as you're going to sleep, lying in bed, just think about what do I want to achieve tomorrow. Now, it might be that you want to put some different clothes on. It might be that you want to go shopping. It might be that you just want to be able to sit up. It varies depending on what's in our lives and what we're able to do. For some days, actually just being able to get my dinner ready is a real accomplishment, and to put it on the table without spilling it. For other days, because my CP varies, I can do much more. And it's really important to set those levels of achievement at something that you are going to be able to do. And if I've got a list of things, it might only have 2 or 3 things on it. And some days I might not write that list till I've actually done all of those things. But writing them down and then ticking them off my list gives me such a sense of achievement that it really boosts my well-being. I don't know, Emma or Miriam, if you ever do that.
It's quite funny you should say that, because I start every day that I meet Miriam with, can I just show you my list of things that I want to get done today? I think, especially with doing the work that Miriam and I are doing, for me, it's important to have goals for the day, because otherwise it all feels a bit too big and unachievable.
Yeah.
So by breaking it down to small goals and feeling like I've achieved them, is the way that I keep myself sane.
And you just made a really important point there, Emma. So even if it's something like getting dressed, for some of us, it might feel like a huge goal. So what we might want to do is say, okay, I'm going to put my socks on, or get help putting my socks on. okay, then I'm going to do my trousers or whatever. So it's about whatever you've got to do, breaking it down into those little individual parts and then being able to tick those off. And every time you tick something off, you'll get like this really little burst of, oh, I've done that. So actually it gives you that burst of energy that will then give you the energy and the motivation to be able to do the next bit.
Can I also add, Sarah, I think the other side to that is that some days, like you say, when things are a bit more difficult, and I don't maybe achieve some of the goals, it's normally around like my own self-care, because I'm doing everything else and, you know, making sure everything else flows. Then I can either give myself a really hard time and say, oh, you didn't, I don't know, put your clothes away, or you didn't manage to have your shower like today, or whatever it is, I'm just being random.
Yeah.
I do shower, so but then what I would do is I would have to make sure, and I've learned this over the time, is not give myself a hard time and say, oh, well, that's it, it's all gone now, and actually say, well, okay, I didn't do it today, but I did do it yesterday, or then tomorrow's a new day. So let's not give yourself a hard time. You obviously need to, you're having it's a tougher day today, so be kind to myself, and let's review it tomorrow when it's a whole new day. So that's one of the things I've had to work really hard on myself to do, and it's really helped to not be so tough on myself when I don't quite hit the goals on the day I want to, but I have hit them previously.
Yeah, and that is so important. Thank you for sharing that. And on those days, you will have done other things.
Yeah.
So it's about thinking about, okay, you might not have done the other things, but hey, at least I got this done.
Yeah, exactly.
So those are the 5 areas of PERMA. And I thought it was really important to go through all of those, because the relationships and the friendship is just part of those really important things that we need. And relationships and friendships are so important. We know that actually when we've got other people in our lives, we have less depression and less anxiety, and actually it can really help us feel so much better. And it doesn't matter about seeing people particularly. You're probably like me, that I've got some people that I do see more regularly. I've got other friends that I won't see from one year to the next, but you walk in or you pick up the phone, or you see them on Zoom, and it's like you were only talking to them yesterday. But it can be really, really hard to actually make those new connections. And what I wondered if it would be really useful to talk about now is, how do people make those connections? So if you might have plenty of people in your life, but where do you see them? And let's just talk about how we can help each other to sort of maybe just move out of that comfort zone, because some of us will find it much easier to talk to and meet new people than others. So for some of us, going to a club meeting locally might be really difficult. So we can do that through groups like this meeting online, which is brilliant. I don't know about you, but being able to attend meetings and meet people on Zoom has been one of the really positive outcomes from the pandemic, because there's so much more opportunity to get involved in groups than there ever was. For some people, it might be, well, I can go out for a walk. So one of my things, if I'm having a day when I know that I'm at home all day, I will, or during the pandemic, I would try to make sure that I went out on my mobility scooter or my tricycle, and I had a rule for myself that everyone that I passed, I would say hello to, or good morning, or whatever it was. Now, I don't know, it's really funny. I think some people, and maybe I'm being very judgmental of other people, but some people look at me and think, oh, she's, she hasn't got a brain. And just smiling at them and saying good morning confirms that actually I must be absolutely bonkers. But the majority of people will smile and say hello, and I've met some amazing people. And actually, what we don't know is whether they've had anybody else to talk to that day. We might be making a real difference for them in talking to them. So I'm just wondering, what's everybody else done about being able to develop those friendships and relationships? And what are the challenges you've got? Because share those as well, because actually I'm sure we've all got the same challenges, and some people might have some really good ideas about how we can overcome them.
I think the thing that I would say as well, that I've tried to learn, is that when you're in a group of people, some people might know each other more than others, but the ones that don't know each other that well are probably just as nervous as each other.
Yeah.
And that kind of helps me come up with those abstract ice-breaking conversations to just start a conversation, and then everyone starts warming up to each other. I do try and avoid initially the people that obviously know each other, because it's very difficult to get into that conversation with them.
Yeah, it is. And it's even more difficult if you're in a wheelchair or a scooter, because especially if it's a standing conversation face to face, because you're at a different level.
Mm.
I think for me, I found it more difficult to. I enjoy meeting different people with different experiences and of life and in living in different ways to me, and I used to get a lot of that through work or through attending courses, but since my life has narrowed a little bit in terms of not being out and about doing courses or not actually being in a workplace, that's where I've struggled a little bit with meeting new people, and I like meeting new people. I find that exciting. So I think that when you're not at work, that's been difficult for me to do.
Yeah. Has anybody else got any things that they've found difficult or things that have worked really well for them?
Tony, do you want to say something? You've got your hand up.
Oh, sorry, Tony, I missed that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. Where was I? Oh, I forgot what I came to say. Oh, yeah. Well, I live in a village. And because there are a limited number of people in the village, if I go walking around the village, I do tend to see the same people again and again. And through familiarity, I do get to know them. Well, maybe that's only cursory, but it is funny because, as Emma said, I fell over about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it was dark, so I shouted, "Help, help," and somebody came out and walked me home, and I got chatting to him, and I knew his partner because I had time dealing with her. So we had a very good conversation together. And then the result of that, he said, "Oh, it'd be really good to meet up regularly and go for a walk." So I think that if you make a little effort, people are always willing to make that connection. And there was like a podcast a week or two ago. There's a podcast called Instant Genius, which is run by the BBC Science Focus Unit. And
Sorry, Tony, can I ask, what was that podcast run by?
the BBC Science Focus Unit. The BBC Science Focus produced a magazine every month, and they produce a podcast twice a week.
Okay. So, sorry, can I just pause you with what you said before so that we can all understand? Because normally you have your camera on, so I can see your mouth moving as well.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's so fine. I'm just checking that what you were saying was that you met somebody while you were walking home and you just got into a conversation with them.
No, I didn't. When I fell.
Oh, when you fell. Yes, yes. Okay.
I shouted, "Help, help." And so the man from an opposite house came out and helped me get up and offered to walk me out. And it was really good to chat with him. And I emailed his wife afterwards because I had some correspondence already with her. And then after that, he said it'd be really good to go walking regularly together.
So I would sort of say in summary to that, I'm really pleased you met them, and obviously you had correspondence, but maybe falling to get to know people is a little bit dramatic.
I totally agree. When there was a podcast in there about influence, and it was pointing out that we always underappreciate the extent to which we influence other people.
We underappreciate it, yes.
And one of the things the author of the book said that it is very hard for people to say no, because it requires real effort to think of a reason why you don't want to do something. And it's really useful to appreciate that, because if you realize that it's easier to say yes than making a request becomes a far more positive experience.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Tony. That was really useful reflection. I just want to bring back to something that Claire and Becky have put in the chat, because Claire said originally different levels when you're socializing can be particularly difficult if you're hard of hearing, and needing to have, because of the hearing issues, face-to-face situations to be able to, and even that takes quite a lot of energy. And then Becky agree about needing a good increased level of energy for situations with lots of people and or new places. And it's not always easy, especially if you haven't had much sleep, because you're worrying or excited about going, or where you have to go and travel to. So I suppose that's, I suppose that's also looking at preparing yourself for something that you know might be quite tiring.
Or is it that, I don't know if anyone else has this experience, but I used to have it a lot when I was younger. If I was nervous or excited about something, I'd almost dream it beforehand. So I'd almost run it through in my head before I'd actually got there. And in some ways that was a good thing, because I'd kind of self-prepared for the eventualities that might occur, and I'd already realised that I could be successful, and that helped. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, Sarah.
It does completely, and it's a really important point, Emma, that our brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So if we run something through our heads, imagining a positive outcome, or imagining when we're going out and meeting someone, how it'll go, then it's about giving ourselves that positive mindset right from the start. And it's a brilliant way of doing something. And we can very easily focus on what will go wrong. And the more we focus on what will go wrong, it's likely to go wrong. So it's about focusing on, let's think about all the amazing things that could happen. The other thing that, just listening to you, Tony, that I really wanted to make a point about today was, I don't know whether any of you have seen a TED talk that's called I'm not your inspiration. Now, have you seen it, Emma?
No, but I like the title already.
Now, it's a really, really interesting podcast. Sadly, the lady that, or TED Talk, sadly, the lady that did it has since died. But it's had millions of views. And basically, she was a wheelchair user. I think she possibly had brittle bones. I'm not too sure. But she got so fed up of everyone going, oh, you're inspirational. Oh, you're amazing. And I, for many years, watched it and totally agreed with her, because, you know, if I go out for a bike ride and I've just got on my tricycle and people go, oh my God, that's inspiring. It's like, I'm just out for a bike ride. However, in the last year, 18 months, my views on this have changed, and I'd be really interested to hear everybody else's take on this. And Claire, I've just seen you've got a t-shirt. Now, am I able to judge if other people see me as inspirational or not? Should I be judging that? And taking it one step further, if I'm having a positive impact on someone else's life just by being me and getting on with stuff, is it fair for me to be judgmental of that? Or should I be celebrating that? If I've inspired someone to do something that they wouldn't have normally done, should I not be really proud of that? So it's turned it on its head for me, but I'd be really interested on other people's thoughts.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's exactly where I'm torn, because on the one hand, yes, it's a bit patronising to have people calling you an inspiration for doing very everyday, normal adult things. But at the same time, as you say, I don't want to kind of push people away by sort of pointing out to them that I'm not here to be an inspiration. I think, like a lot of things in life, I guess it's balance and a bit sort of working out things on a case-by-case basis, maybe. I don't know.
And I think, Claire, I've agreed with you, and I think I've struggled with this because everyone knows how much I don't like being called an inspiration, yet we do a lot of work within the charity showcasing other people with disabilities who are out there achieving, because we know that people want to see other people, want to have, I don't like the word role models either, but other people out there doing it. And in some ways, that's what we're saying to people, look, other people are doing it and you can do it too. So we're kind of using the same sort of approach. And that's why I struggle with it a little bit, because we want both. I think the bit that irks me slightly is when I'm called an inspiration just for having a job, being a mum, and doing my everyday life like everybody else.
Exactly.
Which is different maybe from other things that I've achieved. And if I'm really honest and I'm sharing openly, one of the reasons that I started up was because I'd recently lost my sister-in-law who was very young. And that inspired me to actually get up and do something. and find some purpose. So I have used other people as my inspiration. So is it fair to say that I'm not inspirational to other people? I don't know. I don't know if that was too much, but there we go.
Like you say, I think it's about context. It depends what they're calling you an inspiration for. If it's validly something that is unique and inspiring, then great. But if it's just a normal everyday activity, then that's a bit patronizing.
Yeah, and I like Becky's t-shirt.
Yeah. I think we maybe ought to get those printed.
I just wanted to say welcome to James, and thank you for what you've written. Do you want to talk, James, or would you like me to read it out? I think that was me. Okay. Yeah. So James says, hello, everyone. I'm James, new to the group. Don't want to take over. I agree with Becky that if you don't drive or walking to the station is exhausting, then traveling on a bus train can be hectic. A busy train can be hectic. Then walking around a different place can be tiring. Plus, at the moment, the trains can be unpredictable with the strikes, so events aren't certain. If you drive, you are more in control of the variables, but if you rely on public transport, the day can be very stressful, especially since COVID. And then he goes on to share that his social life has been cut significantly over the last few years. So I think that's also, you know, there's two sides of this, isn't it? It's how we perceive things and the practicality of the external around us and how that impacts us. Thank you, James, for sharing.
Yeah, and it is so difficult to get that balance, isn't it? Because some people will live in places where there's quite a tight-knit community, but other people, if they're living out in the sticks or where there isn't a community there, it can be really, really difficult.
Tony, I think you have your hand up again. Is that correct, or did I?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Emma has lots of really good profiles on her site, and I haven't read them all, but as a result of that, I was really started to read autobiographies written by other people who had cerebral palsy, and that's been really useful because I don't know whether they are inspirational. They certainly are, but certainly having someone's life and seeing what they have done gives a very different perspective on my own life. And I would assert that it's difference in perspective which is far more important than whether or not one is inspirational or not.
Yeah, so just go on, Emma. Go on.
I think that's the point, Tony, isn't it? It's that everybody takes inspiration from different places and different things, and I guess I hark back to what Sarah said, is that different people are going to take inspiration from different people, and actually we should start thinking that as a compliment and not judge their view on it. And I'm really pleased that reading about other people's experiences with cerebral palsy has been helpful. For some people it is really helpful, for other people it's not, and I guess it's about having the choice.
Yeah, I think it is. Shall I just share my screen again, if that's all right? because I think that's been a really interesting discussion. And this really struck a chord for me, because for some of us, going online and talking to new people, even standing in a queue at a bus stop or in a shop, it can take a huge amount of courage to start talking to someone that you don't know. But actually, it's about stepping out of that comfort zone, and you never know where that's going to lead you. So this is where I thought we'd be when I stopped the slide, so I forgot to show you that. So I hope that sort of that discussion has been helpful. And I thought, just to sum up all around this idea of positive psychology, we talked about writing down good things. We talked about asking positive questions. We also talked about the importance of smiling and smiling at yourself. Keep a mirror quite close by and give yourself a smile if you need an extra shot of dopamine and serotonin. Positive action, actually doing things. Exercise obviously is always good for us. If we can volunteer, whether that's as a telephone befriender or whether it's talking to people online or going out and doing something, that's all good for us. Random acts of kindness are so important, and we know that the benefit of doing a random act of kindness is as beneficial to us as it is to the person that actually you're giving that kindness to. And then finally, it's about that positive interaction. It's about seeing, ringing, or speaking to people. And they're all really good ways of helping us feel better. So it's about setting goals and smiling and laughing and appreciating those sunny days.
Thank you so much, Sarah.